The 2027 Ford Expedition is huge, powerful, practical, and surprisingly quick. But here's the question. Is this actually one of the smartest full-size SUVs you can buy? Or are you paying a lot of money for something that's already starting to look expensive? Because the Expedition has one major advantage that a lot of reviews overlook. Ford has already given it a major redesign. So what you see for 2027 is essentially a relatively new generation, not an aging SUV waiting for replacement. And that changes the buying decision quite a bit. Why people keep buying the Expedition? There's a reason the Expedition has survived for 3 decades. In 2025, Ford sold 85,921 Expeditions in the US, the model's best annual sales since 2019, up 10.1%. That's not the sales volume of an Explorer or an F-150, but it shows that demand for this kind of vehicle is still very real. And the formula is pretty straightforward. The Expedition gives families 3 rows, serious cargo space, strong towing capability, and the road presence of a traditional American full-size SUV. It's also built on body-on-frame architecture shared with Ford's truck family, which helps explain why towing and hauling are such big parts of its personality. For 2027, maximum towing capacity reaches 9,600 pounds when properly equipped. The Expedition Max gives you even more room with up to 123.1 cubic feet of optimized cargo capacity behind the first row. That's the kind of practicality that keeps people coming back. The surprising part? It's seriously quick. Here's something you might not expect from a vehicle this large. The standard 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 produces 400 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. But certain versions get the high-output version, producing 440 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. Both are paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission. And independent testing shows just how capable it is. Motor Trend recorded a 0 to 60 mile/hour time of about 5.3 seconds for an Expedition Tremor with the high-output engine. That's genuinely quick. But there's an important distinction here. Quick doesn't mean sporty. The Expedition still feels like a large SUV. Its strengths are effortless acceleration, highway cruising, towing, and carrying people, not attacking corners. And for most buyers, that's exactly the right priority. What most reviews don't talk about. Here's where I think you need to look beyond the shiny screen and impressive horsepower numbers. Ownership cost. Ford estimates up to 16 city and 24 highway MPG for the 4x2 configuration, while 4x4 models are rated at 15 city and 22 highway. That's reasonable for something this large, but it's not inexpensive transportation. You're buying a big SUV with big tires, significant weight, and a twin-turbo V6. Fuel costs can add up quickly, especially if you drive mostly in the city. Reliability is another area where I'd be cautious about making big claims. The current generation only arrived for 2025, so long-term reliability data is still developing. Consumer Reports has documented recalls affecting recent Expedition models, including issues involving electrical and trailer-related systems. That doesn't automatically make the Expedition unreliable. It simply means buyers should keep their expectations realistic. A newer generation hasn't had enough time to build the kind of decade-long reliability history that an older, established platform might have. And that's important if you're planning to keep this SUV for 10 years or more.
Why you should buy this SUV? So, who actually makes sense for the Expedition? First, large families. If you regularly carry 6, 7, or 8 people, the Expedition size isn't a disadvantage, it's the reason you're buying it. Second, people who tow. A properly equipped Expedition can tow up to 9,600 pounds, which makes it far more useful than many crossover SUVs. And third, buyers who want one vehicle to do almost everything. School runs during the week, long road trips on weekends, towing a boat in the summer, and carrying a garage worth of luggage when necessary. That's where the Expedition makes sense. The 2027 model also starts at around $63,600 for the active rear-wheel drive version according to current pricing data, putting it in a competitive position against other large body-on-frame SUVs. You're still spending serious money, but you're getting serious capability. When the Expedition isn't the best choice. Now, let's be honest. If fuel economy is your top priority, this probably isn't the SUV I'd recommend. The Toyota Sequoia's hybrid powertrain gives it an efficiency advantage in several configurations, and buyers interested primarily in urban fuel economy should look closely at hybrid alternatives. The Expedition also isn't particularly small or nimble. Parking garages, narrow streets, and crowded shopping centers remind you very quickly that you're driving a full-size SUV. And if you're only carrying 2 or 3 people most of the time, you're paying for a tremendous amount of vehicle you may never actually use. There's also the price question. Upper trims can approach $90,000, so at that point you're getting close to luxury SUV territory. That's when I'd start comparing very carefully.
Final verdict. So is the 2027 Ford Expedition worth buying? I think it makes a strong case, but only if you genuinely need what it offers. The strengths are obvious: massive interior space, strong towing ability, powerful engines, useful technology, and a relatively fresh design. The weaknesses are equally clear: fuel consumption, size, potentially expensive upper trims, and a still developing long-term reliability record. And there's one more thing to remember. The 2027 Expedition isn't a completely new vehicle. It's essentially carrying over from the major 2025 redesign, with the biggest 2027 edition being a 30th anniversary package. So I wouldn't buy one because you're afraid this is your last chance before a redesign. I'd buy it because the current Expedition already fits your needs. And if you don't need 3 rows, serious towing, or enormous cargo space, there are probably cheaper and more efficient SUVs that make more sense. But if you do need all of that, the Expedition is one of the more convincing full-size family haulers on the market. Now, I'm curious, would you spend around $64,000 or more on a 2027 Ford Expedition, or would you choose a Tahoe, Sequoia, Yukon, or something smaller? Let me know in the comments.